Hey listeners, before we get started, I wanted to share with you a brand new podcast that you might be interested in. It's the new Braves Dugout podcast. This podcast is about all things Atlanta Braves baseball. They talk about roster moves, potential trades, game recaps. Now this may all seem cliche for a sports podcast, but they also include a special segment each week where they talk about controversial topics using only stats and logic and no bias. Controversial topics such as which Braves player should or should not be in the Hall of Fame, why your favorite player may not be as valuable as you think they are, or how certain players you may not like deserve more love. It's the new Braves Dugout podcast. You can currently catch this podcast, see what I did there? Catch this podcast on Spotify or on Anchor.fm. It's sure to be a hit!
If shark tornadoes and velociraptor pastors were not enough for you, straight from the world of sci-fi comes a new terror in the Wuzzleverse. Kangaroosters. Oh no! Kanga from Winnie the Pooh and Foghorn Leghorn got together for a one-night stand, and their debauchery will cause the downfall of mankind. Kangaroosters.
It has a pouch!
Kangaroosters.
It has a comb!
Kangaroosters.
It has strong legs and a waddle bigger than a long-necked beer bottle.
Kangaroosters.
It can kick you against a wall and pick you senseless in mere seconds.
Kangaroosters.
It's pulling a grenade out of its pouch.
Kangaroosters. Although the origins of the character are children's books and television shows, the series is geared for adults and librarians. Children are not encouraged to watch. Parents, warn your children about the dangers of crossbreeding animals with natural disasters, pastures, or chicken masters.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above Average Show Show!
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Above Average Joe Show. And today we actually have our first sequel. So this is going to be a great, fun new episode because we have a returning guest of Chris Marks. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Joe. Thanks for having me back. This is going to be a good time.
Oh, this is going to be great. I am so glad you came back because we have a lot to cover because you've done so much stuff. So we've got a lot of information to go over. And we also missed one of the main questions that I ask most of our guests.
What do we miss?
How'd you get started in the film industry?
Well, it all started when I was 6 months old. No, we're not going to go. How did it get started for me? Well, I grew up in South Florida, and for as long as I can remember, I always loved watching movies and watching TV shows, and I was always fascinated by that. And I had, like most kids, I had a lot of toys and action figures, and I would play out stories and like episodic things every time I was playing my toys. Like if I was playing my toys, all afternoon, and then I had to go, I went to go eat dinner with the family, and I came back, I would start right back into the storyline where I left off very episodically. So it was kind of like always in my brain, and I never really had that much exposure to the arts or to theater because my family just wasn't like that. And then it wasn't until like the last 2 years of high school that I finally started to discover that, schools that I could take classes in. And long story short, I went to Palm Beach Atlantic University. It was a pretty small school over in West Palm Beach, great school though. And they had an excellent theater department. And my professors were great, and it just kind of went from there. So I started out in theater, and, I did theater in college for 4 years, obviously. I had the good fortune of doing a couple of professional musicals during the summers. And after I graduated, I continued to pursue theater as much as I could. And slowly but surely over time, I transitioned over to film and television and commercials. And the rest is history.
Awesome. And you had mentioned musicals, and I know that you love musicals.
I do.
I'm not going to make you rank them all, but what are a couple of your favorite musicals that you love?
Well, I'm very biased towards the musicals that I was cast in, but some of my all-time favorites would definitely be like Les Miserables, all-time classic.
Nice.
Wicked has always been a favorite of mine. I really enjoy Shrek the musical. That's a fun one. That would be a lot of fun to be part of that someday. There's just so many great ones to choose from. And me personally, I have done 6 musicals. The very first one I ever did was Les Miserables. That was a professional one. I was cast in the ensemble, and I was also Javert's understudy for anyone who's familiar with the show.
Nice.
Great experience, great way to get my feet wet in that world. I've also done The Fantastics. I did South Pacific twice, one in college, one professionally.
Oh,
I
wow.
did Man of La Mancha, and I did Side by Side by Sondheim. The 4-year period that I was like bouncing back and forth from college plays and musicals to professionals, whenever I had spare time, I think I did like 15 or 16 plays and musicals. So yeah, it was pretty busy.
And then going from the plays and musicals into film, one of the projects that we didn't get to talk about that we wanted to last time but ran out of time is Burn Notice. You've got to work on Burn Notice. How was that?
Yeah, Burn Notice was one of the very first big projects that I ever booked in the film world. I had done like a couple of, low budget short films and like a couple of commercials here and there, nothing too major. But Burn Notice was like one of the very first big ones that I did. It was a, very popular show. It had been on for like 4 or 5 seasons by the time I started auditioning. It was so frustrating for me because when season 5 came around, the casting director, Lori Wyman, who I love to death, she's an amazing casting director in Miami, Florida. I had auditioned, gotten called back for 14 different episodes in season 5. I had callbacks for every single one of them, and 7 of those I was put on first refusal, which for those who don't know, first refusal means that they've narrowed it down to like you and maybe 1 or 2 other actors for the role, and then it's up to the directors and producers to figure out who fits the role the best. And all these times I went out for it, and it's like I never got it, and it was just, for some people they can get frustrated and give up, but it's like it just made me more and more hungry. It's like they are not going to finish season 5 without me. So
especially when you get so close all those times, you get right there.
Yeah, so many times I was so close, and it was very frustrating. And the funny thing was, the episode that I finally booked, these directors who I auditioned for in a previous Burn Notice episode, they came back and they immediately told the casting director, it's like, hey, that guy Chris Marks, bring him back. We want him to reach for this role specifically because they liked what they saw the last time. And I came in and I read. And long story short, I finally booked that one, and this character was the biggest one that I had auditioned for yet for Burn Notice, so it worked out really good. My character was Oscar Markov, the Russian spy.
Oh, wow.
So, and yeah, I got to work on set for 3 days. Got to work with the main actor, Jeffrey Donovan, and I got to work with one of my all-time heroes, Bruce Campbell.
Yay! I love Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I've been a fan of his ever since I was a little kid, so getting to work with him was kind of like a miniature dream come true. And the fact that I was trying to kill him most of the episode made it even more fun.
I don't know if I would consider that fun, but...
Well, let me tell you a funny story why it made it more fun, because I don't want to spoil too much, but basically I was a Russian spy who was also a sniper, and Bruce Campbell's character was trying to protect this girl, and I was trying to kill the girl, so Bruce got caught in the crossfire, obviously. When I got to set my first day, I had seen Bruce at breakfast, and I saw him in the makeup trailer, but I never really had an opportunity to talk to the guy and introduce myself because everything's just going 100 miles an hour. We finally get on set, and there's a scene in the episode where I got my sniper rifle, and I'm shooting at Bruce and the girl, and they dive behind a car. Now, when we're filming this, we do all that, and the director yells, "Cut." No. Anybody who has heard of Bruce Campbell, knows that he's got a sense of humor. After the director yelled cut, he jumped up from behind the car, stuck both middle fingers in the air, and shouted at me, "Take this, you bad guy!" And I thought it was hilarious, and quite literally, take after take after take after take, like 3 or 4 takes after the director yelled cut, he would flip me the bird. And I thought it was hysterical. So finally, I'm like, okay, Brucey, I'm going to get back at you. So I got my rifle and I have him in the crosshairs. And after the director yells cut, I don't take him out of my crosshairs. Eventually, he notices, and next thing I see through the crosshairs of my sniper rifle is a 53-year-old man, well-established actor, shaking his butt at me in broad daylight on the set of a major TV show. You cannot make this up, and that was a moment where I was like, okay, everything I've ever heard about this guy is absolutely true. He's very professional, but he's a goofball, and it's like, who shakes their butt at somebody that's pointing a sniper rifle at them? Only Bruce Campbell. I finally got a break, and I got to go down in the green room, and he's sitting on his chair messing on his iPad, and I tell him, before you flip me off again, at least let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Chris Marks. And he was very cool, very nice guy. We chatted a little bit, and we took a couple pictures together, and it was just a great time. And got to shoot a gun, shooting blanks, obviously, and got to have some fun on that set for 3 days. And it was a great way to get my feet wet in the real professional acting world, because that was a big job, big paycheck, good stuff all around. And it was so gratifying, too, because I had worked so hard to get on the show, all the auditions, all the callbacks, all the first refusals, all the, sorry, close but no cigar kind of feel. And then finally I book it and I get a great character like this. So.
And you had mentioned Florida a couple of times, and you also worked on another show that takes place in Florida called The Glades.
Yeah, Glades was actually the first TV show I ever booked. Fortunately, I was able to book 4 TV shows in South Florida before they lost their tax incentives, so I was able to snatch up the good ones before they were gone. But The Glades was the very first one. It's very similar to like NCIS or CSI Miami or something like that, where it's like detectives trying to solve murders and stuff, but The Glades had their own fun little spin with it. To this day, I did The Glades back in 2011. I did Burn Notice in 2011 too, and to this day I still have those 2 projects on my demo reel 9 years later because it's good material, and specifically with The Glades because like everybody who's ever seen my demo reel, they always mention like, oh, that, they mentioned that my character from The Glades is their favorite. Why? Because me, a 6'1", 230-pound muscle head guy, well, who do I play in The Glades? I play a dorky Boy Scout leader. No one saw that coming.
At least you're not typecast. You got some versatility there.
I try to show versatility. I get typecast as like a cop or a detective or a villain pretty often, but I will, as long as I can, I'll keep The Glades on there just to show people, hey, I can be a dorky Boy Scout if you want me to. It was so funny because like Burn Notice, like I told you, I auditioned and had callbacks for like 14 different episodes. Glades, I got it on the second try. Go figure.
Wow.
Go figure.
That's incredible. That's very incredible.
It just goes to show, like, when the right role comes, and you're the right person for the role, it just, you can get it on the first try, you can get it on the 20th try, who knows,
And then on your way to becoming a star, you also worked on another show called Star.
Yes, I did. That was one of my more recent projects. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia about 5 years ago, and because, like I said, Florida was losing its tax incentives, and Atlanta was just exploding in the film industry. It still is. Not right now due to the pandemic, but, the last 10, 15 years it was blowing up. And I booked Star here in Atlanta. For those who don't know, that's a TV show starring Queen Latifah and a few other big-name actors. And basically I got cast as a police officer, and a couple of the main characters were driving drunk, and I had to pull them over and make sure everything was okay. So that was just a day player role, so I think I was only on set for like 7 or 8 hours. It was a quick job, but still fun.
Oh, wow.
Still fun nonetheless. Anytime you can have a short day like that, it's like, oh, okay. bye. But you sure you don't need me for anything else? But because, like, as you know, it's like more often than not, you're on set for 12, 15, sometimes even 20 hours. It can be quite crazy. But, on Star, they were very quick, very organized, and they got the shots that they needed me for, and that was all she wrote. But yeah, that was a good one because you see me all dashing and dapper in my uniform.
A man in uniform,
Oh yes, very handsome, very debonair.
You could almost consider that one of your hidden assets, which is another show that you worked on.
Oh, you're just the master of puns today, aren't you?
I'm trying to work my segues in and trying to get better at that.
You're masterful at it, my good friend. Masterful indeed.
So tell us a little bit about working on Hidden Assets and what that was like.
Hidden Assets, we filmed that, I think it was like 2012, 2013. It was 2013, actually. I was still in South Florida at the time, and that was one of my first. Actually, that was my very first lead role in a feature film, and it wasn't a huge budget project. I think the budget was like $100K, maybe a little more, something like that. And originally, I auditioned for the lead character's husband. And then after they saw me read for that role, they were like, no, he should audition for this other role, which was a character named Riker. Riker was like the main villain of the episode. And that was one of those times where, it was a small budget. We were getting paid, but we weren't getting paid like a tremendous amount of money. But the cast and crew, we were all working together for about 2 or 3 weeks. And the cast and crew, we were like family, man. It was just, we all clicked, we all, worked together very well, we all respected and loved each other, and we just had a tremendous time working on that. And most of the film that we shot in one location, we were able to rent out this huge warehouse, and we were able to use that for a lot of different shots, and it made audio a pain in the ass because the building had a terrible echo. But so we tried to soundproof it as best we could, and the lead actress, Jacqueline Journey, she was also the writer, producer, and director of this film. Talk about a multi-talented person, dear Lord. Her hands were full every stinking day. She was the lead actress, director, writer, and producer. And, because most of the scenes are me and her, and, we have a lot of dialogue together. We beat each other up a lot. Both of us had bruises on our arms and on our backs because of all the craziness that we did to each other. Yeah, we definitely had some good times on that. And Jackie Journey, she hasn't done any movies since then, but she let me kind of like give you a rundown of all the things that she's done since we completed this movie. She wrote a book called The Divas in the Details, and that book is very successful. It's on the shelves right now. You can check it out. She was the host of a web series called Passport to the Palm Beaches, and basically she was, those like on the Travel Channel, those shows that like they go to this area and they kind of like show you all the cool touristy spots, all the things you need to check out, give you a little history background.
Yeah.
And basically she was the host of this, and this was all about like West Palm Beach, the Palm Beaches, all the beautiful things, all the historical things, and she was the host of like 5 or 6 episodes of that. And yeah, so she's an entrepreneur and she keeps busy, so I have nothing but love and respect for her.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we will be right back with more Chris Marks.
It's been decades since our hero saved the child and helped restore peace to a far, far away galaxy. He's now since found a place he can settle down and relax with his adventure buddy, now known as the Adolescent. As the Mandalorian eases into retirement in Florida, he becomes known as the Mandafloridian.
Hello, maintenance. My dishwasher is broken. I don't know what's wrong with it. That's why I'm calling you. It keeps wanting to self-destruct.
Initiating self-destruct.
No, not self-destruct. My dishwasher wants to self-destruct. Can you help me?
Initiating self-destruct.
No self-destruct. See, I think it was refurbished with an old IG-88 part or something.
Need to find child.
No child finding. just need you to wash the dishes.
Initiating self-destruct.
No! No self-destruct!
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's wrong with it.
What do you mean? Your maintenance!
I have spoken. 700 credits, please.
Dude, a really weird tan line you will get if that helmet you keep on.
This is the way. This is the way.
Welcome back, everybody. We are still here with Chris Marks, and we had just finished talking about how he had worked on some Florida projects, including Burn Notice and The Glades and Hidden Assets. And now we're going to talk about a commercial that you worked on down in Florida with Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. for HTC. Tell us a little bit about what it was like working on that commercial and what you did on that project.
I didn't even, basically that just kind of fell into my lap. One of the crew members who I'd worked on Burn Notice and The Glades, his name is Mario Xavier, a very good friend of mine. You know Mario too. Mario's an amazing guy. He's one of those people, he's got a hand in just about every project that happens in the Southeast and anywhere, I suppose. But Mario called me out of the blue, and he asked me, it's like, hey, I need some more PAs to work on this commercial with Robert Downey Jr. Are you interested? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, hello. Long story short, I was able to get off of work from my regular job at the time, and I was able to, we shot the commercial for 4 days, and sure enough, Robert Downey Jr. Was the main character of this commercial, and it was a big budget commercial, man. They spent millions and millions of dollars. And, they had helicopters in this thing. They had big green screens. They had this humongous tower that they built out of storage containers, and they decorated it. And it was just, they had so much stuff going on in this commercial. The coolest thing was because my buddy Mario was the second assistant director. Anytime that they needed a PA to help out with something related to Robert, it was like, hey, Chris, go on over there, because he knew I was a big fan. So I was like, hey, we need somebody to hold an umbrella for Robert Downey Jr. while we're on the beach. Chris, come on over. Hey, we need someone to help out Robert Downey Jr. with this. Chris, come on over. And I was like, thank you, Mario.
Aww.
But yeah, that was a blast because, a lot of people were asking me, what's he like? What's he like? Did you talk to him? It's like, yeah, I talked to him for like 3 hours. I was holding an umbrella for the guy all day. He's a cool guy, very sarcastic sense of humor, lots of fun.
What point in his career was this? Was this like before Iron Man, just after Iron Man?
Iron Man 3 had just come out in theaters, so obviously he was hot as a firecracker as far as his career was concerned. So, in fact, Mario actually called me while I was in the theater watching Iron Man 3, so I thought it was very ironic. It's like I'm watching Robert Downey Jr. on the big screen, and here I am getting an opportunity to work with the guy. Cool. Rock and roll.
That's awesome. That's like grabbing the bull by the horns right there. And speaking of grabbing the bull by the horns, you worked on a commercial with a guy that had a bull head. It's very interesting commercial to watch, which we will post on our social media so you can take a look at it. But tell us a little bit about what it was like working on that commercial.
I was auditioning for this commercial for Bank United, a bank that's in Florida. I'm not sure how many other states they're in. They said that they were going to have a new mascot called the BS Bull, in which this bull, he's trying to get you to come to his bank, and he's just talking a lot of BS. Nothing that comes out of his mouth is the truth. And the cool thing about it, they booked me, and they booked a handful of other South Florida actors. And the funny thing was, shortly after we booked it, we found out that they weren't going to shoot this in South Florida. They were actually going to shoot this in Uruguay, South America.
Oh, wow.
So we had to get, they had to make sure everybody had their passports ready to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was my first ever job outside of the U.S. So, they took care of the flights. They took care of the hotel. They paid us a little per diem so that we could eat lunch, breakfast, and dinner while we were in Uruguay. And it was a great experience. We got there. The first day we were just, we got into our hotels, we did all the paperwork, they got us all set up. Day 2, they shot my commercial with the bull first. I think they shot like a total of like 6 or 7 commercials with all of us. I was only part of one, and they shot me with the bull first thing in the morning. So I was done for the day at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. We had an early morning shoot, and then after that, I was totally free. They let me go, and the third day, my flight wasn't until like 8 o'clock that night. So I had the whole day to explore downtown Uruguay and do the tourist thing and have some fun. So it kind of felt like a paid vacation. It was great. But yeah, the bull was very interesting because the guy that was in the suit, he was so small. He was probably like 5'6", 5'5", and he was very skinny. So with the bull, they had to put on shoulder pads underneath the suit, and the bull head was enormous, and it was very impressive. The animatronics for the bull head was interesting. The actor inside had no control over the facial expressions. They had 2 guys behind the camera with remote controls operating it. It was just very interesting to watch them coordinate that.
And then after working with a guy that's 5'6", you went on to another commercial with another guy that he's probably taller than 6'5", I think. He's like at least a head taller than you. Shaquille O'Neal. You got to work with Shaq for a little bit.
I did. This was after I moved to Georgia. I was able to work with Shaquille O'Neal, and he's actually 7'1", I believe.
Whew.
He's
Wow.
a full foot taller than me. I got pictures with him on Facebook, and he makes me look like a child. But but yeah, I was able to. Basically, what happened was ESPN and Turner Studios, they do all these funny videos with Shaq, and May the 4th was coming up soon, and they wanted to do a funny video with Shaq that had to do with Star Wars for, May the 4th be with you holiday. And they found out that I worked for a company that did these Star Wars Jedi things, and they said, "Hey, can you have one of your people come over and teach some of our NBA stars how to be a Jedi and whatnot?" And so they chose me, and all I knew was that I was going to be doing Jedi lessons for some NBA Hall of Famers. I had no clue who it was, and then I got the text message, "You're going to be working with Shaq," and I was like, "No." And I was like, he's like my favorite of all time. He's, because like not only is Shaq a huge NBA Hall of Famer, he's in everything. He's in movies, he's in TV shows, he's in commercials, he owns restaurants all over Atlanta. He's everywhere, man. He's such a goofball. And I did the commercial with him, and he's exactly what people said he was. He is a 7-foot tall giant, but he's a 9-year-old trapped in that body. They all told me up front, it's like. He's like, now, just to let you know, it's like we have this script, but Shaq, he doesn't like to stick to the script very much. He likes to do things all on his own, so we always have to be very flexible because he likes to improvise. So you got to be good with that. And I was like, I did improv comedy in college for 3.5 years. I'm good. I'm good at improv and snappy comebacks. So we shot everything that we were supposed to do, and of course Shaq went off script, and we just kind of ran with it, and it worked out pretty good. But then after we were done shooting, Shaq comes over to me and he's like, "I know how we should finish this. We should do a shot of you and me having a lightsaber battle, and then you hit me in the butt." And I'm like, "Really? You want to do that?" He's like, "Yeah, it'll be funny." And so he's like, he tells the crew what he wants to do, and he's like, "Come over." He's like, "Okay, let's practice." I'm like, "You want me to hit you in the butt?" "Yeah." "I hit you in the butt now." He's like, "Yeah, give me a good hit." So I tap him on the butt with my lightsaber. He's like, "Harder." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay." So I hit him a little bit harder, and he goes, "Harder." I'm like, "Dude, this is getting weird." And I whacked him pretty hard. I actually hurt him. I found out later. I asked him after we were done shooting. He's like, "Did I actually hurt you?" He's like, "Yeah, stung pretty good." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't apologize. Don't apologize." But yeah, but that was a great time, and they edited the thing, and it came out right on May the 4th, and it got a lot of attention. I think it got like 100,000 views on Facebook. It got like 50,000 views on YouTube, and a lot of my friends. I was working the next day on something else, and a lot of my friends, my phone was blowing up. He's like, "Dude, I just saw you with Shaq. Oh my God, that's crazy." Well, like all these people blowing up my phone. It's like, "Dude, you were with Shaq. You're with Shaq. You're with Shaq." I'm like, "Yeah, great." Because usually, as well as I do, usually when you work on these projects, it doesn't come out for months.
Yeah.
And, but the fact that it literally hits the internet like 24 hours after we shot it. It was like, whoa, holy cow.
That is a really fast turnaround time. Wow.
Because they, it was a pretty easy shoot, and they didn't have too much special effects or editing, but I mean, it's ESPN, it's Turner Studios. I mean, those people are top notch. So,
and going from one sports icon, Shaquille O'Neal, to another sports icon, you worked on a documentary about Muhammad Ali.
Yep, yes, I did.
Tell us a little bit about working on that project, and give us a little bit of background on what the difference is working on like a documentary versus a feature film.
Basically, the whole thing is called Ali's Comeback, the Untold Story. And if you're not aware of the history, Muhammad Ali, he was the heavyweight champ of the world, and then Vietnam, the war in Vietnam was happening, and Muhammad Ali was drafted to go and fight in the war, and he refused because he didn't believe in the war. And because he refused to go with the draft, the whole country was split. Like half people were supporting Ali and half the country was against him. Boxing, they stripped him of his title and they banned him from boxing for life just because of the politics of the thing. It was like 3 years, something like that. It was like 3 years that Ali was like not boxing at all, and he was talking to everybody he could in the boxing commission and lawyers trying to figure out how he could come back. And long story short, the documentary speaks about these boxing promoters. They were able to figure out, Ali, he was banned from all 50 states in boxing. Wow. They made sure he couldn't have a comeback because of the politics of the situation. And some boxing promoter, long story short, was able to find a loophole that Ali was able to box in Atlanta, Georgia. For some reason, he was banned in everywhere else except Atlanta. And so they started making phone calls to make this thing happen. And Muhammad Ali, he handpicked this guy called Jerry Query, who was a white guy that Ali had a lot of respect for. In the reenactments, I portrayed Jerry Query. We didn't have any reenactments of the actual fight. They showed the real footage in the documentary, but they just had the reenactments of Jerry Query when he got the phone call from Muhammad Ali saying he wanted to fight him. And, Query was just overwhelmed because to him, Muhammad Ali was like royalty to him. And at first he didn't want to fight Muhammad Ali not because of the politics, but because he was like, how in the hell can I possibly fight my hero? He's an icon to me. I look up to this guy. How could I possibly do that? And his wife actually talked him into it. And she said, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to Ali because he handpicked you to be the guy he fights on his big comeback. It's an ultimate slap in the face to him and to yourself. You owe it to Ali and you owe it to yourself to see if you can hang with the best in the world. And so long story short, they were able to put on the fight. I think the fight took place in like the early 70s or something like that. And it was a huge sensation because the whole country, the whole world was talking about, oh my gosh, Muhammad Ali, he's coming back. All this time in retirement and all the politics, he's coming back and he's having this fight against Jerry Query, and it was a big happening. And that's what the documentary is about. And the director of that is a guy named Art Jones. Put a lot of hard work and a lot of love into setting all these things up, all the interviews with all the real people who lived the experience. He set up interviews with people, family members of Muhammad Ali who are still alive today. And basically, he just needed a handful of people to shoot some reenactments for Jerry Query and Muhammad Ali and a couple other people. And I actually got the job from the woman who was playing my wife, my friend Julie Kendall. We shot it, and they saw my headshots, but the second they saw me in person, they were like, "Oh my God, you look just like Jerry Query. This is going to be great." So we shot that, and a couple of years went by before they were done. So I was just like, okay, it's just another project that I probably won't hear anything from. But then they had their first screening. They had this big premiere over in this theater over in Dunwoody. I forget where it was. It was somewhere near Atlanta. I think it might have been Dunwoody. I forget. But they had a red carpet. They had photographers. They had a bunch of historians there. They showed us the film. They showed us the documentary, and I was so impressed. It was definitely one of the very best and well put documentaries I had ever seen. Art and everybody else on his crew, they did an amazing job putting this thing together. And I don't know exactly what's happening right now, but I got a phone call from Art a couple weeks ago that he said that they're on the verge of getting some pretty big distribution deals.
Oh, wow.
And so Ali's Comeback, The Untold Story, probably will be coming out pretty soon. I don't know exactly where or when just yet. Probably in the next year or so, it'll probably be out and people will be able to see it. And the story is amazing. You know, it's a story of like, you know, Ali was standing up for his personal and religious beliefs. A lot of politics came down on him, and he kind of lost everything. But he never quit. He never gave up. And you know, fortunately, he had a lot of people that were willing to help him along the way. A lot of promoters and managers that believed in him, and they fought tooth and nail to find a way to make it happen. And the whole story is kind of like Muhammad Ali, kind of like being a phoenix, you know, rising from the ashes and moving on to win the world title a couple more times, and you know, becoming the legend that we all know that he is today. So you know, even though I was a very, very small part of that project, you know, it's still, the second I saw the finished version of the documentary, you know, I couldn't help but, you know, it's like, yeah, I had a small role in this thing, but it's like, this is something big. This is history. You know, this is telling the history of one of our true American icons. And, you know, I'm very proud to have been a part of something like that.
Yeah, I'm not even a sports fan, and I'm excited to watch it now that you've talked about it.
You talk about like Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson or any of those big names, you know, it's kind of hard not to, you know, want to know what the stories are of these people. Most major sport figures have some kind of trials or tribulations, but you know, guys like Ali, you know, his comeback was truly a very special story. And when you hear it in this kind of detail, it's like, wow, that's something special.
So we're going to go ahead and get things wrapped up here. But before we do, I know that while we were talking before the show, before we started recording, you had some interesting story to tell about when you had to shave your head for some projects.
Basically, I was just contacted out of the blue. These people, I don't know how they found out about me, maybe through a different casting director or an agent or something, but they saw pictures of me on Facebook with a buzz cut, with it like, you know, very close to having my head shaved completely bald. And they contacted me and they said, hey, we're doing this commercial and we've been trying to find actors and models who are comfortable with shaving their head completely bare-skin bald, and nobody's willing to do it. And we saw your pictures, and we were wondering if you would. And I'm like, I got a few more details, and they told me what they were paying. And I was like, okay, yes, I will do that. I've already shaved my head a number of times anyway, recently due to some theater and some other projects that I was working on. And it was very interesting because they shot, basically I forget exactly what it was for. This was like in 2009 or 2010, something like that. They shot it like it was one of those 1920s silent films, kind of like a Charlie Chaplin, you know, that kind of style of movies, you know,
Cool.
before they had audio and they had that cheesy piano music playing in the background. And the basic concept was I was just this regular guy, and I come across this beautiful woman, and in the commercial I'm talking to her brother. There was this misunderstanding of what kind of men she was attracted to, and my character thought that he said that she likes bald men. So you see me in the mirror and I'm shaving my head bareskin bald, and I get a date with her, and she freaks out. She's like, what did you do? And I'm like, what? I was told that you like bald men. And she's like, no, I like bold men. And then later on is like, you know, I get rejected from her, and it's this big sad thing. It's like, oh no, a bald man gets rejected. And then the end of the commercial, you see me with my hair grew back, and you see me with another beautiful girl, and I have a happy ending, and it's all, you know, hunky-dory. But when I saw the finished product, it was very funny, and it was very cute. And I tried to reach out to the directors and producers to get a copy of it, and it never happened. I tried to find the commercial online. It wasn't on, it was just for the internet, but it was only on the internet for like 5 or 6 months, and then it was gone. And believe me, I tried. I looked everywhere I could think of to find this commercial online somewhere. I could not find it. And so I probably wouldn't still be using it. Maybe not, because it was so long ago. But at the very least, if I had it, I might use it to show people that you know, how I look with a bald head.
Yeah.
But yeah, to this day, I'm still kind of bummed that I was never able to get the footage because it was pretty funny. Good stuff.
And as we get wrapped up here, do you have any social medias or anything that you want to plug?
Sure, absolutely. With me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Look up Chris Marks Actor. If you want to see some of my video footage, go on Google and type in Chris Marks Actor Vimeo, and you can find my Vimeo page. And I got like 20 different video clips on that website with some of my best stuff. If you want to check out Hidden Assets, that feature film we were talking about earlier, you can find that on Amazon or iTunes, on iTunes and Apple.com. And like I said, Muhammad Ali, that'll be coming out soon. Burn Notice and Glades you can probably find on Hulu or something like that. My episode of Burn Notice was Season 5, Episode 16. It's called Depth Perception. All the other stuff we were talking about, you can find that on my Vimeo page.
Awesome. And I know some of that's also on YouTube, too. So if you want to see the HTC commercial, the Shaq promos are on YouTube.
If you want to find the Shaq video's on my Vimeo as well. But on YouTube, just type in Shaq Learns the Force. It pops right up. And as far as the HTC commercial, all you got to do is type in HTC Robert Downey Jr. and that will pop right up. It's like a 2-minute commercial.
And we'll provide links for all of that stuff. But thank you again, Chris, for hanging out with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very honored to be the first ever 2-time guest on your long list of very talented people.
And next year, let's see if we can make it number 3, too.
Sounds good.
Awesome. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. And we will see you again next week on another episode of The Above Average Joe Show. Thank you again to our special guest, Chris Marks. Be sure to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitters, and look us up on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes. You can also check out another podcast I co-host, The Extra Unordinary, and other great media content by Moon Possum Productions at moonpossum.com.
Cool.